Thanks, Ernst. Good afternoon. Thank you all, and hope you're having a great event. It's my first time at Deliver, and it's been a fantastic 36 hours that I've been here. A little bit about myself. I'm the Group CEO of Element Logic. I'll spend a little bit of time telling you about Element Logic. But I spent majority of my time trying to drive automation in a manufacturing in a factory. And I joined Element Logic recently, but with the intent to see how do we replicate or in some ways supercharge some of that automation that you all have been part of or are on a journey with. The topic today is really around scaling retail through strategic automation. I think what I'm not going to do is spend time telling you why automation is important. I think there's a reason you all are here. I think having spent time over the last 36 hours is very obvious to me that it's not a question of whether you should do automation. It's really a question of how fast, how do you scale. I think that's what I'll try and cover over the next 40 minutes. A little bit about Element Logic. We've been a company. We're celebrating 40 years this year. So we've been in business for many years, close to 1,000 employees globally. It's a fairly global business, and I'll talk a little bit about that later as well. But we grew up. We're headquartered out of a small town outside of Oslo called Klofta, and we grew up there over 40 years with the mission to revolutionize warehouse performance. That was our mission, and it still is our mission, and doing it one warehouse at a time. Our focus is really around ASRS. It's the way I like to tell it. We give ourselves credit for democratizing AutoStore. AutoStore is one of our key strategic partners. Great technology which allows you to drive efficiency, productivity, and eventually savings and automation, trying to meet your business needs. And we've been working with this technology for many years with the first integrator of AutoStore, and today we are the largest integrator of AutoStore. But we don't only do that. That's where we started off. That's where our roots are. That's where our focus and speciality is. But really where we come in is really trying to help address whatever automation we can put in place to address your business needs, to address whatever problems you're trying to solve for your business. And one of the ways I like to talk about being the first integrator, why does it really matter for you? I think it's less about being the first or the largest. I think the most important thing is we deliver on the ROI, or we deliver on the most optimized, efficient way in which you can drive ROI. And then the last thing I'll talk here about is our software. I think that's really our secret sauce, but probably everybody will tell you about that. And there may be some truth to it. I think where we help differentiate is really trying to optimize for your operations, optimize for your needs, but also to make sure the software is really interoperable. You all work in very complex environments, so we want to make sure that the software actually is fit for purpose for your needs. Serve a bunch of different customers in different markets. Hopefully, as you see your business, in the pie chart, you'll be able to see where you fit in. We're a fairly global business. We got offices in close to 30 cities, locations around the world. And again, why is that important for you, especially if you have global ambitions or a global business? I think we can work with you and help standardize for you your needs or the technology, or trying to solve your problems in one location and then replicate it and standardize, which again, at the end of the day, drives higher ROI for you. Okay, that's enough about us. Why automation can't wait? And again, I don't want to preach here, because I think having spent time talking to everyone over the last few days, you're all at some part of the journey. But I think what I want to amplify here is we are in a unique time period. There's a lot of market forces in play. So the question is not if, the question is not when. The real question is, how do you scale? Assuming you've bought into that there's a need for automation. When you look at a slide like this, or when you look at what's going on in the world around us, be it economic pressures or retail dynamics or customer expectations or unpredictable demand patterns. I think you'd say, well, what's really, these things had always existed. There were economic pressures 5 years ago, 10 years ago from a different setting. I think what's unique in the times that we are all living in is that all these forces are coming together, which is what makes it really complex, but also very, very hard. Let's talk about the economic pressures, right? Labor shortages, rising cost, multiple supply chain disruptions. All of that is not new. It's happening. But we did a poll and asked a number of supply chain procurement leaders around, what are the biggest changes they're seeing, and there's a data point that I took away, which was really startling. A couple of execs and the aggregated exec poll told us that this is the second hardest and most complex times that they've been living in the last 25 years. First being COVID or the period around COVID. How do they adapt to the supply chain disruptions? And this being the second, be it around tariffs, be it around cross-border kind of implications, be it around a lot of the new generation not wanting to maybe work in warehouses. So there's a lot of that's going on, and the aggregated poll suggests that this is probably the second hardest period in their careers over a 25-year span, right? Very interesting. Customer expectations, right? You all probably somewhere in your ethos, somewhere in your value system have customer comes first, do the best thing for the customer, right? Nothing's changed there. I think what's the biggest change is how often or how quickly customers will just drop a service provider or a solution provider and move to somebody else. And especially for those of you in retail, you probably see that. So what's really important here is the bar is really high. You could spend years building that trust and relationship, but that can break very quickly if they find a solution or a quicker solution or a better solution quick. I think retail dynamics, I think you all again have lived this, but I think the most important thing here where I see it and a trend is around personalization. And I think why that also really makes a big difference for you all who are trying to run warehouses or trying to run efficient warehouses. The minute you start putting in customization, personalization, driven to an individual, it drives a lot more complexity. Demand patterns. I think we had 3 conversations just today about we want to do this. We think the automation is great. The technology is great. What you can do for us is really good. But what we're not sure of is the ROI. And why? Because to try and deliver on a performance which is driven by these peaks or Black Fridays or holiday season or end of month or quarter, whatever is your customer buying pattern, to try to meet to those peaks, there's a little bit of an assumption or a myth that you're building a lot of redundancy. And I think a lot of the conversation we were having over the last 24 hours is you don't need to do that. And, we're happy to chat more about this as well later on as well. But again, I think the bigger challenge here is you've got these demand patterns which are really all over the place. And how do you build solutions which are really addressing each of those patterns? So as I said, right, the market forces have always been there. It's really the combination of these things. It's the amalgamation of these things which is really creating this real urgency that is not asking the question, should we be doing automation? It's absolutely you need to do it. It's really about how quickly, where do you start, what's the roadmap, and eventually how you scale. So where do you start? That's really, where do you start, right? And again, I want to assume that you all are at different stages in that journey. Some very mature, some less so. You may not have had the need before. Now, be it around throughput or efficiency or rising demand, which is a great thing, or growth, right? That's now leading or asking you the question, where do you start? And again, this is one way to look at it. 3 categories. You could pick one. The best way I like to describe it is value stream your operations. Start with the customer. At the end of the day, you're really there to serve your customer. Start there. And, that's where customer experience comes in. And then work way backwards all the way to your supply chain and see where is the bottleneck, where is the most inefficiency, where is there, the biggest challenges. And challenges does not mean it's the highest cost. Challenges could be where you see the most disruptions, right? So I think that's one way to do it, and you'll naturally fit into go do some warehouse inventory management, be it around, and within that, maybe you need to tackle storage problems. Maybe you need to tackle picking problems. Maybe you need to tackle packaging problems, right? Or it could be around supply chain optimization as you move product across the world. Can you track it? Can you deliver it on time, right? We had a great session last evening around sustainability, right? What is that something which is a necessity for you? Is it an option for you? As you think through those options and those scenarios, I think it'll help you. Another way to think about it is Net Promoter Score. What are your customers telling you? What is your NPS? And what will drive your NPS to go higher, right? And then use that as a lens and say, where do you go focus on? And we'll talk a little bit about roadmap later on, because the strategy is important, the goals are important, the KPIs are important. So again, in summary, value stream your business, find those biggest bottlenecks, find those biggest disruptions that you have or the biggest challenges you have in the business, and then pick a small or a big area and start. Your path to scalable automation. I'll touch on two things. There are many things here, but I want to touch on two things. And most important here is getting started. I think, again, great conversations we had where a customer of ours, or not really a customer, but a prospect, spoke about, they started with some technology. They weren't sure. And I think at some point you got to make a decision and start small, prove the wins, and then, build on that. I think one of the things for us is about flexibility. You all in various parts of your business are very, very comfortable with using as a service model, right? Where you're not convinced about the tech, you may not be convinced about the ROI, you may not be convinced about the results. What automation as a service or as a service concept or as a business model, what it does is it gives you the optionality. It gives you the optionality to start small and then scale. It gives you the flexibility. If you are a smaller business, if you are a business that is on this high growth curve, or if there is a lot of uncertainty, right? You do not want to make that capital investment. Interest rates are high, etc. How do you start? And I think this flexible model is really where we encourage you to explore more. And you need to go to some other departments in your organization and see where this is a norm, where they do this for a living. And I think in our industry, it's taken a little time for this to be more accepted. I think the second thing, I'd say is AI. I was at a retail conference in New York earlier in the year. Honestly, it was my first time there. It took me a day to realize I wasn't at an AI conference. This is not a choice. I think if you're already not thinking about how you are exploring this and trying to adapt this to your business, I hate to say it, that you're probably already late. And again, the thing with AI is where often the mistake is it's become the technology and AI for the sake of it. I go back to the same thing about what are the challenges in the business, what are the problems you're trying to solve, and see where you can leverage AI to help solve those problems in a quick way, and also build in some buy-in with the organization and get some commitment from the organization. Let's talk a little bit about the roadmap, right? I've touched on a few different things. If it's clear for you that automation is important, if it's clear for you that you're on a journey and now it's about scaling, if it's clear for you how you could do that, be it the value stream map or a customer lens or such, then it's like, okay, what is the roadmap? How do you get going, right? So number one, and I mentioned this a little bit, right? You need to start with your strategy. You need to start with your goals. You need to start with the customer in mind. Identify those long-term goals, objectives for the business, identify the key KPIs, and identify the measurable KPIs, and then align those goals to the business strategy. So examples could be, you're just trying to drive higher throughput because that's what's needed because of the growth that's happening in the business. Maybe you're trying to drive differentiation in the marketplace by doing same day delivery, right? So that becomes the KPI or the goal. Maybe it's about how you're trying to drive more sustainability in the entire supply chain and entire end-to-end supply chain that you have, right? So start with that real strategy for the business and those goals, and then it'll become more easier. Identify your quick wins. As I shared, I spend a lot of my time in the manufacturing place. I think we used to use the term, pilot purgatory. Everybody's just doing pilots after pilots, and it just takes so long to prove the ROI, or you're not convinced about it. I think in our industry, and with some of the back to the market challenges that we have, there's so much going on that I promise you that there is so much opportunity to find those quick wins. So, find a simple way, a 2x2 matrix or whatever, to find those high impact and low investment opportunities. Because the minute you are able to demonstrate for yourselves, you'll get confidence, your teams get confidence, but also, you're trying to get your stakeholders on board, right? That this automation will pay off on a quicker time period. So really important that you identify your quick wins, deliver that fast ROI, and build foundation for growth, right? Because eventually you got to start there. We often get the question asked, okay, what's a good ROI, right? What's the time period? The simple answer, it depends. It depends on your business needs. It depends on, what your cost of capital is. It depends on what the appetite for you as an organization is. But some of the technologies that we've been able to deploy, 2 to 4 years. And I think if that allows you to get the ball rolling and get those quick wins, it gives you the ability to then, build the next step, which is really your path to scale, right? A lot of times, I think some of our customers would make mistakes that they would spend months and years trying to put this roadmap in place. The best way I've described it is you focus on that initial wins, get that quick wins, and then build the entire roadmap. Does not mean you don't need to have a perspective much earlier, but it's really get those quick wins and then build that roadmap, right? How you want to drive growth, and again, tie it back to your success metrics, because a lot of your businesses are changing rapidly. If you're going to spend putting a 5-year roadmap, the world's going to look very different, right? And we've not even really got to the bottom of how AI can really disrupt and really enable a lot of the things that we do. And then optimize based on market position, right? So if you're on one of these quadrants, you may have a different strategy. Maybe the gray quadrant here speaks about volume, right? Maybe, you need to build a roadmap which is focused on throughput, right? The blue quadrant speaks about differentiation, speaks about more personalization, right? Maybe you need to build a roadmap or a model which speaks to flexibility, and how do you drive that in your roadmap, and how do you drive the automation needs which is based on that flexibility. But I think, all this is great, but it will not work. It will absolutely not work if you're not involving your teams, your organization, and are taking them through this journey, right? While scaling could feel like, it's moving sandbags, one automation project after another. I think the biggest challenges and the biggest reasons why some of the automation does not lead to the ROI, does not lead to the desired results, it's cultural. It's about the buy-in. It's about making sure that people are actually embracing the technology and using them to drive more efficiency and making themselves better. So, involve your teams early, drive change management. Don't hope it would happen, depending on scale of these transformations that you're all hopefully going to go through. Make sure that you're using a structured approach to change management, right? You will get resistance. So it's not a if, it's when. Make sure that you're more prepared to answer that. And then I think as the business evolves, as your needs change, as you put more automation in place in these facilities, in your warehouses, you also see that the talent that you need, or the people that you need, or the workforce that you need, the competencies change, the capabilities change. So just be mindful of that, because you need to make those adjustments as well as you go along. So again, to summarize, right, this is, there's no rocket science about this 5-step process, but it's really to give you a little bit of a framework of how you can think about your journey. And you may be in different stages of this journey, right? Or in some of your facilities, you're well evolved, in some you're not. So use this as just as a framework to adopt and adapt to scaling automation to meet your needs. Okay, so that's a lot of theory. Okay, that's what we could do. That's how we've been able to help our customers. But no better than learning from somebody who's actually been able to do this and do it very effectively. I'll introduce you to a company called Boozt.com. Maybe show of hands, how many of you have heard of Boozt? Okay. Any of those people who raise their hands don't live in Scandinavia and have heard of Boozt? Okay, that's good. Okay. Yeah, so, it's a fantastic company and a very young company, right? Founded in 2011. They call themselves a Nordic department store, right? It is one of the leading e-commerce, if not the leading e-commerce fashion lifestyle companies in the Nordics. And again, number of you may be in similar space in your markets, right? Very varied set of SKUs, a huge variety of SKUs. But also, as they introduced, they were very clear that they wanted to make sure that they also invest in their software. For them to be an e-commerce leader, it was really important for them that their own software and technology is very important. And the role we played there, as I spoke about earlier, and what our software does well, is the interoperability. We wanted to make sure that no matter what you use, that we can work with that. So in 2017, they started with automation, and they had a clear problem. Their growth and demand was increasing multifold, that their current operations just couldn't keep up. They couldn't fill the warehouse with enough technicians, workers, employees to be able to meet their customer needs. So think of a graph where high growth and customer satisfaction scores coming down, right? Not a great story for a business, right? And it became very clear to them that they needed to tackle that. And again, if you go back to what I was speaking earlier, it started with a business problem. It started with this: we had a problem. Our customers weren't happy. So they implemented an auto store, 131 robots, 30 ports, 130,000 bins. And, for some of you, that may not mean much, but the intent here was, they said, how much of my product can I put in an auto store, which allows me to drive throughput and efficiency? And they did the analysis, high running products to low running products, and saw what was the business need, where were they hearing customer complaints the most, and seeing how they could use some of the technology to drive that. So as I said, their focus was on faster handling of fast moving items, right? And this is important. The initial focus was that, and I'll go to the next slide and it'll become really clear. But for them, it was really important they take a small area, focus there, and get it right. And then this is what happened. So the last slide that I mentioned was the February 17, right? And this is just a chart which really is a chart that we often talk about, of how companies have scaled. And the technology that you could use. In this case, they started with, and just to orient you on the chart, the first row under the dates is the number of robots that they added. And think of this as a proxy for, as you put more product through the auto store, you are probably needing more robots to move product and drive more efficiency. But what's really amazing to see is, in this period, which is goes to October 22, and as we speak, we're working on some other things with this customer. But look at the back to the roadmap. Quick win, pick an area, start small, and then scale, right? Put more product through automation. Start with your high running, then put more product. And I think this chart is probably best amplifies that. So if you go back to that roadmap, right, and Boozt exemplified that, is they had a big problem on high moving products in a certain category, in a certain of the one of their categories. Highest customer pain point. Said, we want to build an auto store there. They put that product in, got great results. And it didn't take long for them to see how else and how much, where else can we have this? To the point where when they started in Feb 17, and you'll hear a video from them as well shortly, it was about solving a pain point and customer problem. To much later on, somewhere in the 2021 period, this became a competitive advantage, right? We always look at this, that it's solving a pain problem and a customer problem, but for them, it really became a competitive advantage to deliver product to customers faster and better than what anyone else can and get it right? No complaints about, I got the wrong product or whatever. Hear it from them.
Things really do go fast. Because that's the way we work. Boozt.com, it's an online e-commerce fashion company. We're focused every morning on getting everything out so that we can deliver everything to the customer as quickly as possible. Our record right now, I think, is 49 seconds from the customer has placed the order until the order is ready for distribution. We came from a warehouse that was totally manual. Once you make a choice to automate, it's a big decision. Element logic is not just a buyer-seller relationship, it's more of a partnership. You have to be secure that you have a system that is capable of working all day, because online business is 24/7. The basic idea was we were going to build a warehouse that was state-of-the-art, and as soon as we basically had the roof on, we moved in Element Logic to start the build. Everything we have done with Element Logic has been in a timely manner, no delays, which is vital, and we have had no issues. Perfect. I could not be more happy.
If you were paying attention, that's a slightly old video, so there were some statistics, but as you saw in the graph, since that video, they've continued to expand. As the business has continued to grow, they've continued to expand. So just to summarize, right? Touched on a few different things, but really, the most important thing is automation is no longer a choice you have. It is a necessity. You got to plan ahead, right? Build a roadmap, use the one that we shared, but you need to have a roadmap, but you got to plan ahead. Quick wins, right? You have very, very complex environments. Simplification. We often talk about internally, we want to be your easy button, right? Come to Element, we want to be your easy button, right? Use indicators to measure success, right? These projects could take long. Yes, we were able to do that in 70 days, but often there's more complexity, right? You want to make sure that you are measuring success and having milestones through the process. You cannot wait for 2 years or 3 years to see whether you got that return, right? Evaluate and see what's the right model for you, depending on your size, depending on your growth, depending on your flexibility, right? Depending on your CapEx, is that easy? You make cash, or is operating or using as a service as a model is the way to go? And then engage often with your stakeholders, right? You heard the Boozt COO say, right? Our approach is we want to be a partner to you. We're here to make you look better. That's our goal. So, thank you for listening. We're here at 8:36. If you have more questions, or more details.
Session is not yet over, guys. So we'll have a few. We have a couple of moments as well for taking the Q&A. We can do that two ways. One of which is the beautiful box that I have here to throw into the audience. It's soft, so don't worry about it. And the second is obviously, if you want to go online, the QR code leads you through my iPad here, and I can read out your questions. I think also to my first reaction is sort of hey, you're displaying from your view very well your company name, right? So you gave it the elements, and that added up to logic. So I think that is probably very few. You should be jealous about the company name in a way. You were mentioning as well, so really side by side with the client, right, with the Boozt, and it's also kind of extraordinary that you actually stacking sort of the improvements in that part gradually with that. So we're talking about scaling, right? So there was also the topic for the session. First question to you as well, sort of how do you have evolved scaling yourself as a company? So how did Element Logic, do you apply that also to your own company?
Yeah, no, great question. And so we're on a journey, right? We're still on our journey, right? We've seen exponential growth over the last 5 years, with a lot of the customer demand shifting to e-commerce and such, thus creating the need for automation, thus creating a bigger need for Element Logic. I think a few things for us, right? Number one, we've always had this lens about let's look at things from a customer's lens. Let's put ourselves in a customer's shoes. One of our core values is around customer obsession. So I think as we've tried to understand our customers and see their needs and their trends, we've also tried to make investments in our business to make sure we're doing that. We spoke a little bit about business models as a service. This isn't because somebody woke up in our organization and said, let's go offer this. It's more because our customers are coming to us and saying they do not want to drive that capital expense. They are early in the stage of automation. There's uncertainty. They need that flexibility. So that's leading us to see how do we come up with new business models so we can serve our customers in more and unique ways. I also think in our journey, initially, a lot of our focus was on AutoStore. We are, as I spoke about, the largest integrator for AutoStore, but I think there's a lot more automation needs that our customers have
And if you need to elaborate on that one, and that because that was also one thing standing out. Hey, this is how you started. This is how you got the traction. This is how you got the trust from the clients. I understand that part.
Right.
But sort of, hey, if I want to have a competitive solution to AutoStore, would I still knock your door, or how would that work?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think our approach is less of we don't have a hammer in our hand looking for a nail. We're trying to understand your needs, your problems you're trying to solve, and then see what's the best fit for technology to solve those problems.
Hey, and obviously we saw the Boozt example in a way, which is kind of impressive, and it sort of brings it down to sort of, hey, you're also helping accelerating that particular business, right? So that at the end of the day, every client would like to grow, right? How do you help that as, let's say, as an accelerator of that of their platform into more clients?
Yeah. I think a couple of things. One is it's all about the ROI. What we want to make sure is as you grow, as you meet your needs, or if you're in that Boozt chart or have a similar chart, how do you add these different parts of the journey and make sure that each one of them is delivering to the return? So our responsibility is to maximize your ROI, how quickly you can get to that, which allows you to get the confidence and then get on to the next project. I think the second thing is really adapting. We want to make sure that we are adapting and flexible to your needs. And that could mean accelerated growth. It could mean different business model. It could mean I have a very well-functioning warehouse, which is not seeing the same growth because our customers are not buying, but I now want to optimize inside the warehouse. I want to drive continuous improvement and more efficiency there. So our view is how do we make sure we deliver on the ROI, most important thing, and help meet your needs, your business needs there. And second is really this adaptability and flexibility, be it around business model, where you are in trying to serve your customers, and from that lens.
Yeah, so back to that first element of the question, sort of was around sort of being carrier agnostic, or sort of supplier agnostic to a certain extent, sitting next to the client in order to see this
Absolutely.
shoulder to shoulder in that space.
Hence, we don't manufacture anything. I think the only thing that we, as I say, is our what we produce is software. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure, and that works with everything that you may have.
Yeah. Hey, and so you've been in the company for about a year now, huh? So you got your feet under the desk, as they say. Sort of, you have to know what way we'll be heading out next. So if you sort of need to dream up, a scenario for the next 4 years, where would you hope to find yourself?
Yeah. So I've been here less than a year, but it's like the weather app. It feels like multiple years in a good way. And when I say in a good way, because, there's so much going on in a marketplace, which we spoke about, right? I don't think I wake up every day in the morning thinking, okay, what happened with tariffs now? Or are they on? Are they off? Is there something else? So there's a lot of uncertainty. So it's been fun. I'm loving every moment. And 3-4 years from now, I think we want to make sure that we are working. If there, I didn't touch on it, but if there's one metric that really matters to me, it's what our customers are saying about us. What's our NPS score? What are customers telling us how happy they are and how willingly they will recommend to someone else? Again, internally, we use a term called raving fans. We want every one of our customers to be a raving fan. We want each one of them to go talk to others about how we've created value for them and help them in that journey. So for me, that's really the goal and really the purpose. Putting it in metrics and numbers, I don't know if that's important, but I think we want to be a solution provider, a full-scale solution provider that can help customers no matter where they are in their automation journey.
Hey, and if you look in sort of, you're doing in the automation, that also has the implication that there's always a long tail, right? Sort of, if you do something wrong in the installations, you get a lot of maintenance, service calls, what have you. How do you deal with that, and what is your role in that part of the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think our goal is to put the automation technology in place and walk away. No, I'm joking. That's absolutely not what we do. Our goal is to come in, put that technology, and then serve you through that entire life cycle. So, we offer different kind of services to make sure that we can support you. Often we have very complex facilities where we have actually our technicians on site, and are working as your employees. So our goal is really to serve you through that life cycle. But the other thing is, and again, back to AI, one of the things that we've been doing and we offer that as a solution now is also to see, can we help predict the uptime on the machines or the robots that you're using? Because if we can predict that, then we can be more proactive rather than being reactive. So again, I think our goal is we're there to serve you through the entire life cycle of your automation. We're not there to come in, do the project, and walk away. We do that in many ways, and to me, that's probably the best use case we have, where we are deploying AI to drive more predictive maintenance as opposed to reactive. And by the way, that shows up in savings for you, no unplanned downtime, and eventually, a happy customer.
Cool. And then we're picking up on the Boozt example as well. There's also one of the questions from the audience. AutoStore is often perceived as, a little bit sort of the easier volume, right? Sort of flats, small packets, boxes up to a certain size. You mentioned in the example with, the huge range of SKUs at Boozt. So how does that, what is your vision on that, and how to combine that output to a good service offering?
Yeah, I think again, multiple case studies. They're on our website. We can talk to you more about it, where the AutoStore is used for meeting not all the needs, but some of the needs. So I think the beauty about the AutoStore technology as such is the scalability. And again, without going through the Boozt example again, right? You put more products in, but at the same time, there's limitations, right? Because at the end of the day, what can you fit in a bin? So I think from that perspective, majority of the customers we serve over a period of time, as what we would call, as they build more maturity and optimization around the AutoStore, we see them using more and more product in it. Now, some things may not fit based on weight, size, etc. But outside of that, I think it's fairly flexible.
Cool. Hey, so we're moving a little bit to the end, but where we have always, as most of you know, I'm also part of the Erasmus University Rotterdam. On a daily basis, obviously, we see talent development, and talent development also in this domain, is essential for your company. You already mentioned some of the new generation probably doesn't want to be working in a warehouse. So how would you, describe your area of talent development with your company?
Yeah, I mean, as a CEO, that's my role. That's probably also what keeps me up at night. How do we make sure we are bringing in the brightest and the best, and how do we make sure we're retaining them, right? So I think a few things. One, we've again looked at the talent development or the talent as an employee life cycle. So it starts with what's the value proposition for someone to come and work in our company? What values do we have? That allows us to also choose the right people, choose the individuals with the right fit who will succeed here and excel here, right? So that's like talent acquisition. Once we get the right people in, then it's just making sure we give them fulfilling careers. Somebody wants to do my job. Somebody wants to do Brian's job. How do we make sure we show them the career path and give them the right opportunities so they can develop and then eventually, move up? I think we're fortunate because of our customers that we're a growing company. And for us, the opportunity is there. It's more of how quickly we can hire the right people and develop them so they can take on those next challenges. So that's not the problem. It's more about how make sure that we're developing them and such. And then I think lastly, as we think about all of this is, circled around some core tenets and values in our company around continuous improvement. We want to make sure that's a key part of how people are learning and growing, key part of how we're serving our customers. And I think that keeps it fresh, that drives learning agility, customer obsession, right? So I think as you think through that, it's core values, finding the right people from that perspective, ensuring they can have fulfilling careers, making sure that we are developing them and giving them those opportunities to move around. And we're a global company. I think that also gives that advantage of talent mobility as such. So I don't think we've solved this. I think we're focused on it. But I also think that allows us to, be great partners to our customers.
Thank you, Ankush. I will definitely take a look at the vacancies because that sounds really interesting to me as well. For that part, we're also coming to an end. I think, as I said, I think Ankush laid out the elements for growth very clearly. Also the drivers on that one. I think we got a great insight on how the ROI works and how do you entertain the longer customer journey in a way. And it feels also that for many of you, Ankush and Element Logic could be a great partner for your future growth. How to scale? I think there is still a little bit magic sauce being left, but you can always also check in back at the stand to learn about more some of the details on that one. So thank you so much for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you.